Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Blokes podcast. Ryan Hassan here from the Centre for Healing, joined as always by Nick, the Sultan of Still, Sutherland. Nico, what are you sipping on there, mate? You got your cup of, what would you go for? An Earl Grey tea? Chamomile. No, you don't need chamomile. You need something a bit more. You need a fucking hard green tea or something. But you don't have
I'm
caffeine.
going on a journey through time and space,
Oh,
and
it's that kind of tea.
the universe is unfolding before me, but I am the universe, so I too am unfolding before my own conscious awareness.
Like Nick's drinking ayahuasca up there in Agnes Water.
I've got my first dose of Shilajit.
Oh, excuse me?
I've got my first dose of Shilajit.
Right, that shit sounds legit. That should be their tagline. Get onto them. She legit. This shit's legit.
You've been drinking what I was drinking last week, last episode. Got some feedback. My dad
My own
jokes were on
bathwater.
point last. My dad jokes were on point last.
They were.
Last,
They
yeah,
were. I wholeheartedly concur.
yeah. No, Shilajit. It's an Ayurvedic. It's used in Ayurvedic medicine. Traditionally used in Ayurvedic practices. Support for healthy energy levels. Support for healthy muscle recovery. Support for healthy cognitive function. Support for skin health. So I don't really know much about it beyond that. I just thought
That's
I'd
all you need to know. You'll just have a
give it a
direct
crack.
experience, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
You can
It comes
report back
from
with the review.
it's like a resin that comes out of the rocks in the Himalayas.
Sounds
So
great.
yeah,
How
you
does
can
it
just go there
taste?
and yeah. Well, I've got it in a cup of tea, so
I'm just imagining
uh,
licking a rock.
so you're meant to have like a pea size amount. Yeah, as I said, it comes in a resin, but if you leave it in the sun, it becomes runny. So
Right.
um, yeah, I've just put in a cup of tea, and with the tea, I think it'll be an interesting experience.
I
So
will see
I'm
if you start
hoping,
turning purple by the end of the show.
I hope my third eye opens and I start spiraling out in this episode.
Oh, right. Yes. Lovely tool reference. Also, a bit of an expectation there, you know.
What?
Decalcify your pineal gland, maybe.
What's the expectation?
You hope by the end that you got a third
How's
eyes
that an
open.
expectation? It's just hope.
Yeah, you,
Okay.
okay.
It's not a
It's
demand.
a bit wish-washy.
I've got to let listeners know that you're a bit flat and tired today. Tommy's at school, and you're telling me you're not affected, but I think you've been quite affected by the whole
Oh, yeah,
experience. I
my
think
son's
it's like
starting school.
you're missing an arm.
I kind of am. Yeah. He started school. Had two half days last week. This week he's had full days. We're recording this on a Thursday, and I just dropped him off. And yeah, it's really weird because we only have, the one. I've spoken to a few friends, and they noticing it who their kids are starting school, but they've got another one who's younger, so it's not full like empty nest. Not
Yeah.
So yeah. It's a change for all of us, all three of
You
us,
know, you got
to
to
be
pick him
honest.
up. It's not a full empty nest. He'll return to the nest at some
No, I
stage.
don't. Melissa picks him up.
Uh,
I'll try and be on the golf course at around that time.
you really are redundant, aren't
They're
you?
like, "Are you going to pick him up?" I'm like, "Oh, I thought I'd just leave him there now for the next 12 years."
I don't know how this goes. Don't know how this works. It's my
I don't
first
know about
rodeo.
this. Yeah. Yeah.
This is
No,
on
I don't.
YouTube. Can I watch it?
Yeah, no, I feel good about it. He's been really excited about school, and he's, taken to it so far, obviously being a big change. And I don't know, I think I'm more flat. I had a discussion. Naomi, she's from Origin Pain Relief in Mornington, and I've been
Mm.
seeing her for a while for my back, and I see her now just like every month, once a month. There's just sort of a maintenance thing. She gets in there and tortures me for about 45 minutes, and that, and yeah, we were just talking about. We've spoken about this on the show. You know how we have quite different natures. You're the
Yes.
the turtle moving slow, and so you're one of your learnings in this life is to embrace the other side, and I'm the exact opposite. And I got chatting to her, and she's like very, very similar to my nature, like just fucking crazy and just, nonstop, just doing and doing and doing. And so yeah, I just started really opening up and talking to her about it. I don't know. Since then, I've kind of felt a little bit flat in a good way, not a bad
Mm.
way, but
Yeah.
um, just like I'm now, even though I've heard it a million times, I think I'm consciously trying to slow down, and it's really weird. It's really
Step into my office.
step into my realm.
Mm.
So yeah, it feels a bit flat, but it doesn't feel bad, doesn't feel good. Um, I noticed the
What would be
compulsion.
causing the flatness? Do you think? Like, have a think about it energetically or physiologically. You've opened up, you've expressed, you've got things out of the system, you've stepped into a bit of a different space or whatever. Do you think it's just it's allowed to exist? It's there. It's happening. It's all okay. But just do you think there's anything stirring or shifting, or just a
It's
realization, or
yeah, it's hard to trust that everything's going to be okay if I don't urgently attend to 50 different things. So it's kind of weird.
oh,
It's like uh, how do I say? It's like, if I slow down, then this is just the part that believes it. It's
mm.
like if I slow down, then things won't be taken care of,
Well,
and
the
my
world
life
will
will
stop
the
spinning on its
everything will fall
axis.
apart. The world will stop spinning. The sun
Yeah.
will explode.
Mm, mm.
Everyone else
You
will
are
just
very
be
powerful.
yeah. Look,
You are the
my
center of the universe.
this little infinitesimal being down here in Melbourne, Australia, down in Patterson
Mm,
Lakes, is controlling so
mm.
much of just how the universe works.
Don't
I
you
didn't
dare
ask
stop
for
and
it.
slow down.
I didn't
I know
ask
it's your
for it. I
cross to
can't.
bear. It's your
Yeah, I
cross. It's your
can't. Maybe I
cross to
should fire
bear.
up again.
No.
No, it's
Yeah.
weird. Yeah, like, I know it's so funny because something popped up on my Instagram feed this morning. Peter Crone. I like a lot of his stuff actually. He's been popping up the last couple of years, and I kind of like the way he articulates things. But yeah, and he was sort of talking to this and just saying that we're always held, and some people will call that God or the universe, whatever you want to call it. But there's a safety net that's always holding us. But for those people who are just doing and doing and they can't stop and they have a very high and chaotic energy, then they don't know there's a safety net there, and so they feel like they have to be doing it and doing everything 100%.
Well, that's fundamentally living a life in fear, isn't it? It's this. You'd be in a just by default in a heightened state or a state of anxiety to some degree, because there's this constant worry that if I stop, then the world will implode.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird because you don't recognize that until you do have those moments where you slow down. Because when you're in it, it doesn't feel like fear. If you really sat, when you sat and stop and introspect, you would recognize it as that. But at the
Mm.
time, it's just like, and it gets so normal. It's like any experience, it gets incredibly normalized. So
Yeah.
then, even this now, this flatter state, it's like an addict without their drug. It's like they put their drug
Mhm.
down. They're like, oh, this isn't normal. This is strange. This isn't me.
You
How will
go.
people how will people perceive me? All that stuff.
You're going to come up to Acacia and come into a week in rehab.
I might walk up there slowly. So no, since then I think it's really this
It
yeah,
sounds like a
like
realization has occurred, and it's probably a bit unsettling
I
on some
knew
level.
it. I knew. I've known it for a long time,
Okay.
but now it's like
A
yeah,
deep
yeah,
realization.
exactly. There's like layers of knowing. And
Mm.
like you can understand something at a very surface level. It's not through you go through some shit or you meet certain parts of yourself or you have a big upheaval in your life or whatever, that then you understand something on this next level and you're like, oh, that's the deepest that I can know this. But then there's probably like 100 levels. I'm like at level
Mm.
4, maybe, and maybe there's just deeper realizations as it goes. So, but something landed different for me 2 days ago, and so, yeah, I'm just kind of asking myself internally. I'm just because I'm noticing the compulsion to like do 100 things and bounce from one thing to the other. And then it's like, what are you doing it all for? What are you running away from? Or what are you perceive you're running towards? So yes, I'm having a metanoia,
Mm.
the OG name of this podcast.
Yes, the men of metanoia, which in hindsight would have been much better for the market. We couldn't see the woke movement coming, uh,
If it wasn't for me
and
not being able to pronounce metanoia on the show, we'd be in a much better place with the name of the podcast.
But yeah, that's interesting because I think I said last week I did an Instagram post about it, which has been received well by clients, and it was that it's all been written. So that's that safety net. It's all been written. It's all okay. It's all happening exactly as it needs to. You are your nature and the way that you've been, and it's perfect. Um, there are different paths available and you can explore slowing down. It doesn't mean you have to slow down, but you can explore slowing down and you can sit and notice it's like living a meditative life. In a meditation session or practice, you sit there and you observe the stimulus and everything, and you just notice it arrive and you notice it leave. And we can do that all throughout our day, all throughout our waking life. We can observe the coming and the going and notice it and go, oh, here's that impulsive thought. Here's that old pattern or that old wiring or that old model telling me to go and do and be. And I can acknowledge it and go, oh, that's cool. That's allowed to exist, but I just don't need to act upon it. And that will create some level of discomfort, but
Yeah, 100%.
that's okay.
Plus, it's like it always, like that part's got me into so much trouble over my life, but then it's also done me good. And so that's oftentimes when it comes up. It's like, look what you've done with your life. Look what you've made. That's because of it's because of me. That's that part,
Mm.
you know,
Mm.
getting very activated and but it's like also just so much frustration. Like, yeah, Naomi was saying because she's been working through it for years, and yeah, she said some things that I'm like, oh, finally someone gets it. Like I've told people, but she's like, yeah, and just the world moves too slow for you, doesn't it? I'm like, fucking tell me about it. Should you expect other people to be as onto it as you? And I'm like, yeah, I do, and all that kind of
I
stuff.
have
So
I have that as well, though. I think it's part of my nature, and it's been revealed over the last week or so in my relationship with them. And she's coming on board, and I'm like, oh, just it can be our business now, and da da da. And I can get very in a rush sometimes. I go, it's a bit of a paradox, but I rush slowly. I don't feel I'm rushing. Um, I'm going about it very mindful and deliberately, but it's the pace I go at is quite quickly a lot of the time. And you look at the last couple of years, two properties and blah blah blah, and business and life and whatnot. And you step back and you go, geez, I've achieved a lot, but it felt quite slow to me. But for M, she's going, this is too quick. I need some stepping stones. I need to not just come and be a co-owner of Myndfit. I need to subcontract for a bit just to feel empowered and get settled and comfortable in that, and just make sure that it's all. And I was like, oh shit, thank you for that. That's really important. But I'm like, oh, let's go. This is we can do this, and so I think we all have it's yin and yang and whatnot. We all have it in our natures, but it's about finding that balance and whatever's optimal. It's not about what we want or how we think we should be. It's about what's optimal and healthy and sustainable. And uh, everything's a double-edged sword. It's created so much for you in your life and your business and everything. But when it's out of balance, it's gotten you into well jail basically. So
it also,
it's a
yeah,
hard time.
it's pretty hard time. It's pretty,
Yeah.
of all if you were to look at the epochs of sort of prison experiences throughout hundreds of years and whatnot, those
Yeah.
2 days, there was a spike in how hardcore the prison experience was
Yep.
back in August of 2015.
Mm,
But yeah, look, I made it out, at the end of the
I
day.
know.
I made
Well,
it out.
I don't know how you fashioned. I think you fashioned a pair of undies out of like the steel, the toiletry thing that they have in hospitals. You
My
must have.
special chastity belt that I
Yeah,
made in
yeah.
prison.
I don't know how you fashioned that so
I wish I
quickly,
could take that off.
and it's getting a bit smelly.
It's getting smelly. I do like to have sex as well.
Kind of hurts when I get an erection. Not much room there. Oh, I don't know. Maybe you left a little channel there.
Wouldn't be a
I
chastity
don't
belt
know.
then, would it?
Yeah, well, it's not an opening. It's just a channel for for
an
the ebbs
erection
and
channel.
flows of for the ebbs and flows of the region. Erection channel.
Just a feat of engineering born out of desperation in a prison cell.
And safety
Uh,
and survival.
survival of
Uh,
non-hurting erections.
well,
Um,
thank you for sharing your
yeah,
experience.
but just sorry, before I got into the chat, the prison and the chastity belt, and what you said, but then if I reflect, it's like, yeah, I've built like incredible things, but then I think maybe that compulsion that I have or have had is has probably robbed me of enjoying that to its fullest and being present for that as well.
yeah, yeah, and it's really important to celebrate the little things in the stop. And last year was an interesting experience for me with everything I did, and I've done a lot of. I spoke to you about. I've done a lot of shifting out of that energy from last year because it was all new and exciting and the unknown. So you sort of operate a bit erratically, I suppose. It's this. Well, you are in a state of anxiety because it is the unknown, and you're I've got to have this figured out. How do I figure that out? And so you're just learning as you go. But it's really important to stop and take stock and reflect mindfully and go, wow, that's I ended up having done a lot and achieved a lot, but I don't feel great, or I've realized I was leaning on a few external things or whatever. So I'm just going to make these adjustments. And I think that's all life is. It's just doing our best, stopping for a minute, taking stock, making the necessary adjustments, go at it again. So
Yeah.
it just sounds like you're in one of those stages.
Yeah, a little yeah, I feel like I'm in a cocoon at the minute and I'm going to
Mm.
emerge as a butterfly. Speaking of that, there's been like an outbreak of these white butterflies down here in Melbourne the last few days. Like I'm talking like I don't know, hundreds of thousands of them all
En
around the streets.
masse.
Yeah, it's crazy. Apparently, I know I was trying to look it up yesterday, and it's like the expert professor so and so is like, oh, he thinks it's because of the climate. It's like, oh, thanks, professor. Do we have any more details than that? You know, um, so
I think it's nature. I think it's nature happening. Oh, great.
yeah. But anyway, yeah, I feel like I'm in a bit of a cocoon at the minute. I don't know what's going to come out the other side. I feel okay about it. I'm not attached to anything. I don't feel good or bad. I feel I'm there's just a weirdness to it. It's weird.
Yeah, yeah, that's different. And that's part of metanoia. If it doesn't feel weird or different or strange or confusing, then it's probably not going to be
And it's
effective.
like an experiment. It's like, well, what if I just slow down? You know,
That's
because I
all it
think
is. That's
because
all.
then if my life doesn't fall apart, and stay tuned in coming weeks, it may fall apart. We'll find out. So stay tuned. But if it doesn't fall apart, then all of a sudden that part that believes like you got to keep going or it'll fall apart, it gets contrary evidence to what it believes about the world. And I think I always say that to clients, it's like you gotta give that mind and that subconscious contrary evidence to what it believes, because that's the only way you can start to shaking it up and losing its grip on your life.
Yeah, totally. It just reminded me of a client I had who was similar to you, and we spoke about
Handsome.
um, energy expenditure and energy conservation and everything. And it's like, how long ago did you switch to the Center for Healing? How long ago did you sort of shift it into this more online model?
Uh, it'd be just over 4 years.
Yeah. So it takes on average that long to get something off the ground. So have a think about a rocket ship. It takes a lot of fuel, a lot of energy, a lot of input to lift it up and get it up there and to keep it up there. And I think you've done that magnificently. And now it's just about recalibrating. It's about, okay, and trusting. It's up here. I've got it up here. Great. Now I can just back off and use less fuel and use less energy. And it's all
Yeah.
going to be okay.
And I've realized that I always, it is doing that. And so then I'd start creating other fucking businesses and projects and that kind of thing and then I
So
start
that
getting.
typically comes from a sense of deficiency. That
It's
typically
this
comes
same
from,
part. It's this same part. It's
yeah, it's like I'm not doing enough. What am I if I'm not creating? And it's for you to really sit there in that discomfort and to recalibrate and go internally and do your work and self-soothe and reassure. And
I'm yawning.
that's
This is
always
fantastic.
great.
Not because I'm bored, because I'm
Yeah,
I'm down regulated over here.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's making me think about a client as well that I've been working with, and similar to what you said about sort of recognizing these patterns and everything, and then being able to make a different choice. And they had, we called it the strong one, and so it's
Yeah.
this part born out of having no nurturing as a child and everything, and
Mm-hmm.
basically just saying, I can't rely on anyone else. Fuck everyone else. I'll do it all myself. This person became a very high level athlete and all these other things. And it's like, and it's the main part we've been working with. And one of the things is the strong one. It's been really getting a lot done for them. It helped them do all this stuff athletically, helped them leave a really dysfunctional and bad relationship and take a kid, raise the kid herself, have a business and all that kind of jazz. But it's also the part that stops her enjoying life, connecting in her relationship and all this kind of stuff. And it's the exact same themes. It's always this, it's an overcompensation, isn't it? It's like you said, deficiency. It's like a perceived deficiency based on something that happened
Yeah.
to us. And then us oftentimes spending a lifetime trying to overcompensate and make up.
Sometimes, but sometimes as
Tell
well,
me
it's
when it's
just nature.
not. Tell me when it's not.
Well, when it's human nature, when we're going about things blindly, if we don't set goals, if we just allow our nature to run as its sort of its tendencies to, then of course it's going to create amazing things, but it's going to come at a cost as well. So it's about being, we spoke about know thyself, know your nature, and work with your nature instead of against it, and do what's required. And it's like, right, what are the goals for the year? What am I working towards this year? This is a year of settling. Numerology is awesome. Deb Bull that we had on, might be worth going and chat with Deb because she's a wonderful resource when she says, there's all these steps and whatever number you've got, it's not just trauma or childhood or conditioning. There's so much more metaphysically in play as well. And I'm an 11. That's my number. So once I understand what that is, and then I can, oh yeah, cool, and I can work with it. I have a tendency to skip steps, which happened in my marriage, which was happening, with M coming into the business, and so that's something I really need to be conscious of. And that's not from anything that happened in childhood. That's just how
Your
how I've entered
human
this.
nature. All
Yeah.
right, I might get in touch with Deb. I might check in with her, see what's
Mm.
going on there.
Oh, oh,
I
I'm
just
going to
enjoy
check in with
chat.
her
I'd
just
enjoy
because
chatting
of.
to Deb anyway.
Oh gosh, if she says allocate an hour, block out your whole arvo.
Right.
Because it's I want to chat with Deb just because she's a beautiful creature. So
Yeah.
yeah, so have a think about just doing what's required, and what's required sometimes is just sitting back and enjoying the view of what we've created. Imagine building a skyscraper and have 4 years to build this skyscraper and this tower, and then you go, right, well, where's the next one? And you don't really get to enjoy it. Imagine going up on a hill and just spending some time sitting on the hill, looking at the skyscraper in different lights and different weather, and
No, but that's
just
done, Nick. That's done. It's on to the next thing. For God's sake. If you ain't first, you're
it is
last.
it is and it isn't done. It's done in terms of building, but it's not done in terms of enjoying. It's just about changing your relationship with it.
Yeah. I went to Barcelona, one of my favorite cities. I love Spanish food, is my
Barcelona.
favorite cuisine.
Oh,
Barcelona.
sorry. Barcelona.
And so much of the architecture is by the
Oh, see,
artist
see,
Gaudi. See, you're
see,
really
see.
convinced of your Spanish at the minute.
Muy bien.
There's a Mexican joint in Patterson Lakes. It's really nice. And we went there, and then I was trying to get Tommy to say when they bring out the food to say thank you. And I'm sitting there talking to Melissa. I'm like, oh, what's thank you in Spanish? I'm like, I think it's buenos nachos. And then that just means good nachos. I looked it up. It's buenos
I was like,
nachos.
what? How does
I don't know why. I'm
gracias?
just like Mexican restaurant. Yeah, I think
Gracias.
buenos nachos. Yeah, gracias. Yeah, that's how I looked it up. Yeah.
um,
And yeah, there was the architect Gaudi, and he's done so many. He did the La Sagrada Familia, the fucking incredible, which he only half finished before he died, and they've modern architects have finished the other half. There's like a plus
well, still not finished.
still, yeah, it's still going. Park Güell, which is this incredible. Anyway, he's done so much of it, and I'm like, oh well, this is an incredible artist. Then I was looking up, or I asked one of the tour guides when I was there. I'm like, oh, and when did he die? And they're like, oh yeah, he died because he'd done this bit of art. I don't know if it was on a building. Yeah, it was on a building. And then he stepped back to admire it and just walked into oncoming traffic and go, so you shouldn't admire the things that you've done. Just get on to the next
don't
thing.
don't go searching for evidence to support your limiting
That's
beliefs.
exactly what I did. That's what police do. And I just did that. Oh, that's funny. It's so hard, you know. Melissa's kind of not the same, but she's got a similar kind of thing going on, but in a different way. So we kind of it's interesting because we're both like having trouble settling, and we're going to really have trouble, I think, now that Tommy's at school as well, and we
Mm.
have all this spare time in the middle of the day. And so I think it's going to be I think we can both
Well,
grow
it's
together in this realm.
beautiful, beautiful, and it's all about how you perceive it and how you embrace it. And it's just another chapter. It's just a evolution. It's maturing. It doesn't have to be work or therapy or because of this or blah blah blah. It's just um, nature. It's just ever changing. It's the law of nature. Everything's impermanent. So there's been a version of you that has operated in a certain way and it's achieved a lot of wonderful things for you and it's achieved lots of interesting experiences which have been wonderful for you because you've learned from and grown from and evolved from and now you're in the position that you are. So it's all been perfect. It's just now just living that sense of trust that I will evolve. The caterpillar's got to trust that it's going to come out of the cocoon, whatever it's meant to be.
Yeah, it's that unknown, isn't it? We were a little bit frightened of the unknown.
The
There's
unknown
nothing,
is a massive source of stimulus. It's very
yeah,
triggering,
nothing to cling on to.
and that's the source of suffering. The clinging,
Yeah,
craving.
grabbing at
It's that
things.
I need, and that's where the mind will
I'm
run
feeling
off into the
grabby.
future. Yeah, you are a little grabby creature, aren't you? It's getting Mr. Grabby.
I've got to come out of this cocoon not being so goddamn grabby. I don't know who I am without
and
my
it's
grabbiness.
and that's it. You got to surrender to you'll be exactly what you're meant to be, and it'll all be okay. And
And you
it's
know,
it's that
it's like
it's that
even like,
that unknown will trigger the strong part of us as you're talking with your client. It's not really strong. It's anxiety and it's that needy. It's I'm going to try and manipulate the world in order to be a certain way to then create within me a sense of security. We can create a healthier and deeper sense of security by going, I trust that it's all going to be okay. So that anxiety will only exist in the absence of trust. So
yes.
Mr. Grabby will leave and you become Mr. Trusty.
Oh, Mr. Trusty.
We should write a book.
Yeah, yeah. We can add to the Mr. Men. Tommy's got all the like
Yeah.
heaps of Mr. Men books that we read to him. We're gonna add Mr. Krabby and Mr. Trusty. My mate messaged me. It's probably applicable for me and you sometimes as well.
And and Mr. Criminal with the erection channel.
Yeah. We'll make some adult Mr. Men books.
It'll be an R-rated one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Black label out the back of the kids' bookshop behind the curtain. Um, yeah, my mate messaged me and he goes, because he was reading the Mr. Men to his son, and he goes, have you got to Mr. Silly and Mr. Nonsense yet? And I'm like, nah, but he's got on my wheel. And they end up like being friends. And he goes, that's
Yeah.
us. And I read it and I'm like, yep, pretty much. Pretty much. Yeah, okay, Mr. Trusty. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the word. I just got to sit with this trust, I think. Because even like, like watching movies or TV shows, like I don't do it because I'm like, Like, what the fuck would I do that for? I can go to the movies and like enjoy it, but like sometimes, I'll be at night time and Tommy's gone to bed and it's like, oh, now's a great time. I can watch a series that's been recommended to me or a movie, and I fucking never do it because I'm like,
All
oh,
right,
I'll just
let's do
sit
a
there.
quick little exercise. Let's do
Oh,
a quick
okay.
little exercise. All right, close your eyes. Don't know what you're doing with your arms there, but that was unnecessary. We'll
I
just
was just trying to,
close your eyes.
yeah, I don't know what I
Just,
was doing
just
either.
shift. Just shift. Let it go. All right. So imagine there's a traffic light in your head. Red, amber, green. And I want you to repeat this in your inside voice and just see what color traffic light comes up for you. No good or bad, no right or wrong. Just an experiment. See what happens. So I'd just like you to repeat in your internal voice, I give myself permission to relax.
I surprisingly got a green light,
Mm. Mm. So
which might be
just
part of
keep,
this metamorphosis that I'm going through, to be honest, because I
yeah.
would think that'd be a red, but I definitely got a green.
So I am confident that I can live in trust and surrender to whatever is.
Well, I got amber, I like a flashing amber.
Ah, mm,
Yeah.
interesting one. All right, so that's just a quick little way just to gain insight into what our subconscious is up to, and it's all about aligning the conscious and the subconscious minds together, and coming into alignment and becoming integrated. Um, so yeah, you're just in a beautiful part of your life, and it's going to be so integral to where you end up in the future. So just you don't really have to do anything other than sit there and keep trusting.
Nah, surely there's like a list of 10 things that I could do. Can you please give me the list?
Yep. Number one, trust. Number two, surrender. Number three, let go. Number four.
All right, I'm writing them down. Hang on. Which order do I have to do them in?
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how you travel on this through this
Yeah.
part
Yeah, I
of it.
don't know. Yeah. I don't know if I have to logistically change some things, like turning, like, just, like, because I get, like, fucking hell, I don't know, 40 emails a day, DMs, comments on stuff and all. I don't know whether I just need to set some parameters around that as well, because that's always
Do
getting
they
drawn to me.
ding and whistle and
Oh, no,
oink and
they
everything, or
don't. They boink.
oink, oink? I said.
Boink. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. How you filtered that though? But
Yeah, yeah. Ever since the erection chastity belt, I've sort of got it on the brain. No, but I have the tabs open all the time on my browser.
all
I
right.
don't get notifications, but it's always open in my browser. So no matter what I'm doing, it's just a click away to check what new emails I've got.
So practice closing it all down,
Oh God,
shutting it all down.
I haven't closed that tab for a couple of years on my browser.
Okay.
I'm freaking
It's
out.
time.
I'm freaking out.
No, you're not. You're just
Should I
telling
do it
yourself
now?
you're freaking
Should
out.
I do it now?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll just check them first. Okay. What about my calendar? Should I just close my calendar as
Yeah.
well? Oh,
Shut it all
cool.
down.
Okay, I've closed them. Okay, I got my personal email closing that too. Ooh, okay.
Oh shit! Here comes a meteorite. Oh no! What
Yeah,
have
I'll
you
open it back up.
done?
I'll open it back up. Hang on.
What have you? So it's under the philosophy of turning left instead of right. When you
We're trying to
fear
find out
yourself,
what has caused this giant meteorite to head towards the Earth. We've traced back the root cause to a 39-year-old man in Melbourne, Australia, closing the tab of his emails for a day.
there's a seismic shift in the
Everyone's
tectonic,
got
what are they,
pitchforks out the front of my
plates.
house going, open your emails. No,
Save us,
I'm on a journey of
save us
growth.
for the love of God. To save you. Think of the children.
You're killing
Think of the
everyone.
children.
They're holding up
All
babies. They're
right,
going to
all
die
right,
because of you. I'm like, oh.
all right. I'll open my emails. Oh, I've got one notification. Oh.
Oh, I've inherited fucking $10 billion from my uncle in Syria. Excellent.
Hey, how funny was it? After we stopped recording last episode. It was all about the HSPs and the empathetic and how in tune I've been with everything lately.
Oh
What happened
yeah.
after we stopped recording?
I'm still sus on Nick. I'm sus whether he's monitoring my browser and that. Anyway, we for those who didn't listen, tune in last week and we were talking about the highly sensitive person and empath, and Nick was talking about the fact that when we've got a lot of our own stuff out of the way, that can be used for very strong intuition, and we can start to get some messages and that are happening. And he shared that had happened in client sessions where he'd said stuff, and the client's like, "Oh, I feel like you're inside my head." That's exactly what I've been thinking. Anyway, we stopped recording, and as always, well, what's happening for the rest of the day? Blah blah blah. And then I said something about we're looking at getting a new car, and Nick's
Oh, you
excited
said
about.
you get a meeting with the accountant, and I said, "Oh, what are you meeting the accountant for? To look at buying a new car?" And you're
That's
like,
right. Yeah, yeah. And then
"Yeah,
I'm like,
that's exactly."
yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. Blah blah blah. And then he said like, "Oh, what are you going for?" And before I said anything, he goes, "What are you going for? I could see you in a Porsche Cayenne or something." He said probably a Porsche Cayenne or something. And I'm like, I said, when did I tell you that? Because you haven't told me. I didn't know you were looking at cars. I'm like, bullshit. And then I literally shared my screen because in my emails I had the application for literally a Porsche Cayenne, which is such an I don't know, it's a bit of an obscure car to say even. Um, and so, yeah, it was so funny because we just had that episode, and I said to Nick, I was convinced. I'm like, I must have told you, but then I'd only gotten the email like a day or two before, and I hadn't even spoken to Nick. So he was pretty tapped in last week after the chat,
I also forgot there was a Em and I went on a flight to Sydney
and then he
very early in
proceeded
our
to go,
relationship.
"Nah, nah, don't get that. Let me send you some other cars to have a look at."
Come over to the dark side. Be a Land Rover man.
Oof.
Um, Em and I went on a
A
flight
soccer
to
mum, you
Sydney
mean?
very early in our relationship. Just passed me by. Passed me by.
Dude, I'm
And
surprised.
and on the way back, she felt crook, and we were just coming in. There was a bit of turbulence, and I felt absolutely okay. And then by the time we landed, it was about 10 minutes that she felt sick for. By the time we landed, she'd felt better, and I felt really sick to the point where when we got into the terminal, I went and threw up, and it was just this. It was. It wasn't me just getting sick and her getting better. It was genuinely me absorbing her sickness, and she was fine. And then I went and expended the breakfast, and we went on. But it was such a powerful example of it happening in action.
Yeah, yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, I think I've had those moments as well. We get that as well and tune into the last episode if you want more information. But we get that even, when we go and catch up for coffee with that friend and their life's, chaotic and all over the place, and we end up chatting to them for an hour, and they walk away going, "I feel so much better now," and they get on with their life, and then you get in the car and you're like, "I feel like shit and all over the place," because you've literally taken on that dynamic, that energy.
So that's where, when we know our nature, we can go to on a flight or to catch up with a friend for a coffee, but we can be very conscious and mindful of not taking on their stuff, or not just soaking up all of their stuff. It's really important to learn that. And I had a client send me he just listened to it and he sent me his tattoo. It was like a cross with HSP and then another symbol down the bottom. It was like, "Oh, is it weird that I've got this?" And I'm like, "No, it's beautiful."
Yeah, because you like halal
Do you get
snack packs.
do you get free HSPs when you go into a
Yeah,
kebab shop if you show them your tattoo?
surely, surely.
Um, I love where this episode was, so we didn't have anything planned as usual, but I've always got a list of things to talk about. And just before we finish up, I wanted to. There was a study done in, I'm going to say, Norway or Sweden, somewhere in that region, and it
Yeah.
was done on the. So there was a group of people um, diagnosed with depression. Why I laugh at that. This makes no sense. I'm going to diagnose you with depression. And then they were looking for what escalated it from depression into more into suicidal thoughts and attempting or succeeding to take your own life. And what they noticed was that absolute thinking, which is a cognitive distortion, was a major contributing factor in going from I feel stuck and sad and lonely and disconnected to I'm going to take my life. And so, and I've heard it a lot lately as well. There's a lot of definite statements being made. I have depression. Like, think of it in terms of concrete or not concrete. So, I have depression. If that's a narrative someone's running, if that's a way of speaking about not only that but everything, then it's just making all these concrete sort of things along the way, and it's just going to cause a lot of damage. So I just come up with a few examples instead of I am depressed or I have depression to experiencing a state of depression or I'm in a depressive state. So well, you're really deregulating, aren't you?
Yeah. My ears are popping.
Right,
I'm doing all sorts of stuff.
doing it. You're on a flight. So accountability as well. It's instead of it's my belief that the world is flat rather than the world is flat. Instead of trying to push your beliefs onto other people or convince people of what you're convinced of, it's about taking ownership and accountability. And you made me feel this way. That's incorrect. There's so many incorrect examples out there. I'm feeling as a result of listening to you say that I'm feeling upset. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense. And I think we have individual responsibility, to look at these things and look at our language and the way that we describe things. And then I think the internet, social media, even just blogs or clickbait, all that kind of stuff, it all plays into this so much where it's like there's one side that's just very concrete and absolute thinking, and the other side in the opposite absolute thinking, and then they argue, and that's what creates traction online. It's even like, well, I have, a tile, or maybe I have a carousel, so I might have a couple of tiles to tell you exactly what depression is. And it's like, there could be a myriad of different things that require so much nuance and so much back and forward and talking about. You cannot put it into such a succinct thing, but that's what people want to see. They want to see if they've got depression and says depression is this, and it's like one sentence, and like, oh, great, now I know what depression is. And so that absolute thinking is and speaking is rewarded by algorithms and everything online. And I think that further fuels exactly what you're talking about. But I couldn't agree more with what you're saying.
So it's also black and white. It is this or it is that, and we don't want to go to the opposite of just being completely grey and having no. We've spoken about that before, about having no edges or anything. So we do need black and white, but it can't just be all that all the time. It really. So I just want to ask and encourage listeners to, for the rest of the week or whatever you listen to this, just tune into what you're saying and just listen to how much of it is like a concrete statement. I am this or that is that, and just try and play around with reframing it and trying to soften it a little bit instead of it being so definite. It's high def. Everything's high def at the moment, and it's causing a lot of harm.
It is high def, yeah. And even when you see things online, just reframe it in your own head. So if you see something that says depression is this, then just in your own head go, depression might be this. And then go into it and read about it and research it and have more of an open mind about it. And you're going to be in a better place. And also get around people in your life that you can have nuanced discussions with, that isn't all black and white, and you can exchange opinions and beliefs and talk about why you believe this and why the other person believes that. And it's so different to most of the communication that especially happens online. I remember back in the pandemic, and
60s.
my back in the 60s, back in my time in jail, chastity belt. I remember it was my first erection. And For God's sake. And
I hope it was stainless steel so it didn't rust.
it's pretty rusty now. It's been a while. It's been a while. I might have to get it redone. Might get touched up.
Decalcified.
Decalcify my chastity belt, please. And me and my mate, that was the time where, it was all like, vaccine or no vaccine. And, me and one of my best mates, like, he decided he got it straight away. And that's because he wanted to and he thought that was a good idea for other people to do it. I was the other side. I was like, I'm not going to get it. And I think it's not right. And so we just had discussions about it. And I worked out why he believed what he believed. And he worked out why I believed. And our friendship was great. There was no issue. And we had proper discussions about it. And I understood him. And I started researching things he was telling me and him the same. Whereas most people come together, and it's unfortunately mainly in this online space. And it's legitimately, it is
No, it's not.
impossible.
It's not just online. It's in
But I
family
but I think so.
dinners. It's in
Yeah, but people spend more time online than they do at a family dinner.
yeah,
So what they see and
yes.
hear and converse with online bleeds into the family
It's
dinner.
reinforced there, and then by the time they go to family dinner, that's just their norm, and that's
Yes.
just what they're yeah.
Yes.
But it's have a listen to it though. It's like you're allowed to get the vaccine, and I'm allowed to not get the vaccine. That's as far as it
That's
needs to go.
that's not how it was though. That definitely
But this
wasn't
is
how it was.
that's what we'd ideally like to be aiming for.
Yes.
If everyone is sincere and does want peace on earth and to be happy and everything, well, we've got to start lining things up a little better. And I think, and yeah, it's a beautiful example. What a what a great relationship. What a healthy relationship.
Yeah, I think, and me and you have that relationship, and I hope for everyone out there that they have relationships with people that can happen. Because I know, like, it can be that situation or many other situations that is divisive, and two so-called friends disagree on something, and then just stop talking to each other and don't want to be friends anymore. It's like, what you are only friends with another person because they share the same beliefs as you, and now one of the beliefs is different. You want to go now, and then the issue then lies in that we then, and whether it's I'm a carnivore, I'm a vegan, whatever the issue is, right? There's always this opposing forces. The issue is we stop conversing with people that might have different opinions to us, and then we start getting into echo chambers where everybody believes the same shit as us. And like no growth is going to happen in that environment because we're all just stroking each other's ego and making other people wrong.
Broken an ego.
I was going to say
Well, and
something
that's
else, but I went for ego.
and that's the thing. It's like, were you really in a relationship with your friend, or was your ego in a relationship with their ego? And that's the primary
Well,
relationship status.
the ego, my ego would be in a relationship with this other ego making me right and justifying that I'm, doing the right thing
Yeah,
and
but
taking.
I'm in a relationship with this other person's ego because I can see myself in that other person, and that makes me feel comfortable and safe. And so there's no threat here. And then as soon as the human that is around the ego starts having thoughts that are outside of my thoughts, it's on my human thoughts. Well, hang on, now I'm starting to feel threatened because you're introducing different things now, and just keep things as they were. Keep because that was placating me. I was okay in this, but as soon as you start talking about you're going to turn vegetarian, or you're going to get a vaccination, or you're going to go on holiday, or you're going to go traveling for 2 years, as soon as you decide to do anything outside of what I would do, that's where we go into contraction and start creating conflict.
Yeah, it happens so much and so many people listening to this show would get it because if you're listening to this show, you're probably on that path, this path of whether you're on a journey of self-discovery or you're going into therapy or you're going on a spiritual journey of transformation, you're getting into personal development, you're basically starting to think, feel, and act differently. Then that's one of the sticking points that people often get because all the other people in their life don't like this person reading off the script. And so it's like
Mm.
everyone's got their own movie in their script, and like, yep, this is how Nick acts, this is how Ryan acts, this is how things at work happen. Then all of a sudden they see you and they're like, hang on a minute. He's not going by the script. He's going off. He's ad-libbing here. This is not how, in my perception, Nick is meant to act. And that's off-putting. That's discombobulating for the person. And then And then true friends will readjust to the new one. And then they're like, oh, it's so great that he's doing that. That's awesome. Even if it made them uncomfortable
Oh,
initially. And other people will just go, oh, no, he's doing something different. I don't want to be part of that.
so you and I have it, Dan and I have it, because there's no attachments. I don't desire you to be anything other than you are or how you turn up and present. And that's the source of suffering occurs when we try and make permanent that which is not permanent. So everyone's ego finds itself in someone else and goes, "Hey, you're my friend because we're the same and we align, and I feel safe with you because there's very little difference." And now let's make this permanent. And when the other party doesn't subscribe to that or doesn't know that that's actually going on, and they go, "Oh, I'm going to become vegan, or I'm going to switch things up a little bit, or I'm going to change things because that's the law of nature. Everything's changing." Then it deeply unsettles the other person, and that is fundamentally a codependent relationship. I'm codependent on you being as I found you for eternity because that makes me feel safe.
I need to freeze you in time and you can't change,
Yeah.
right? Because if
And
you
I and
change,
and I'm giving you all this power. I'm making you that powerful that if you make the tiniest little decision outside of these parameters, I am going to become completely unhinged.
yeah, yeah, you shouldn't do that, Nick. That's a terrible way to live. Or is it the second or
Silliness of the
third
highest order.
Zen patriarch? It's like when something no longer offends you, it ceases to exist in the old way. And it's like you're talking about, that empowerment. There's nothing more empowered than going, everyone can be the way they want to be. Some people like me, some people won't like me. I can have disagreements with someone, all of this, but I know who I am and I'm okay with everyone doing what they want to do. All of a sudden, we're a less offended or less disturbed individual. And that's now more important than ever, seeing that every fucking 9 out of 10 people get offended by everything that people say and feel
I
justified
heard
in that offense.
I heard a Buddhist monk speaking, and she was saying a lot of people have got the conception of love wrong. It's like I love you when you make me happy, but what it actually is I love you and want you to be happy. So it's not about what am I getting out of this relationship. It's about what am I giving to this relationship, and I am okay. I have my own source of love, and that is internal, and so I don't need you to be, do, say, act in a certain way for me to then be happy. It's just that. Yeah, I'm doing lots of work with clients at the moment about it's all allowed to exist, and it's not just trusting the lovely stuff, but trusting that the unpleasant stuff's going to be there as well, and it's all allowed to. It's all necessary. It all needs to. So your metanoia, let's go full circle and bring it back. What you're in at the moment needs to be allowed to exist, and you can observe it. Allow it. Just trust that it's all part and parcel of what's going on, and just observe. Just see where it all starts going.
And did you see then? Do you notice I just like yawned and relaxed, and then you did the hosting role and brought it back full circle, which is something that I would normally do. This is beautiful, Nick.
It's
So I
change.
was able to relax, and then something was taken care of. I didn't have
Mm.
to do every single thing.
And that's the thing. It's a funny thing when one person in a relationship is in a state of anxiety and they're doing everything. And I'll take the bins out. I'll cook dinner. I'll do the shopping. It creates no room for anyone else to step up or step in and be involved. So once you start surrendering and letting go, it actually creates a much more balanced experience for everyone. And it's not something that we have to consciously construct or conceive or do or anything. It just happens so organically and naturally.
Organic and natural. That's just your middle name,
Mm.
Nick. That's what it's all about.
Sponsored by Shilajit.
That shit's legit.
That shit's legit.
All right. That was great. Thanks, Nico. I feel good. I feel like I had a little bit of a therapy session.
You needed it.
I do. Thank you. I did. Thanks.
Oh, beautiful. No, I love it. I love that you're in this position. I can't wait to see what comes of it. And as I said, there's no right or wrong. There's no, and we don't have to apply meaning to it all. We don't have to figure out why it's all occurring because that's still all anxiety. That's all a sense of deficiency. I don't know enough. I need to know more. And it's you to take your hands off the steering wheel.
Yeah. All right. They're off. They're off. And I'd love to know if this resonated with anyone listening. You know, obviously, whenever we listen to a podcast, read a book, do anything, we're relating it back to our own experience. So yeah, I'd love to know if this resonated with anyone that, I'll probably call this episode slowing down, or the
Mm.
difficulty of. Um, and yeah, and then tune in next week where my life may have fallen apart. We're not sure. I could
Highly
be
unlikely.
disheveled. My hat might be on
Highly.
sideways. I'll be doing it from the
You,
gutter.
you,
I'll be doing it from the
you
gutter
may
in Dandenong.
you may have had a massive erection which busted your chastity belt off. There's just shrapnel over in Mel's in hospital with shrapnel shrapnel wounds.
What happened to you? Oh, it's a long story. I exploded my chastity belt with a massive erection. That's what happens when you trust.
Dangerous living, man.
Dangerous living. All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in. We love you. We'll see you all next week.
All right.
Peace.